It is another Prime edition on My Media Prime TV. This evening we're going to be talking once again about Cameroon's opposition on the theme of Cameroon opposition on trial, rethinking the opposition, opposition relationship and alliances. Is it time to rethink what relationship should operate amongst opposition parties in Cameroon, and how do we build concrete alliances that are workable in the course of the years, especially during elections years like what we are going to be observing this year. We are going to be having presidential elections, regional elections, and next year we are going to be having legislative as well as municipal elections. We are going to be discussing this with Mr. Nchupichem Richard, who is a political and civil society activist and the Deputy Secretary for Political Education and Training for the Social Democratic Front. He also is the National President of the Bamendankwe Cultural and Development Association. He was elected to that office some months back, having served that association for a very long time as Secretary General. Mr. Nchupichem Richard, we're glad to have you coming all the way from Bauer, Southwest Regional Capital.
Thank you so much, Leonard, and thanks for having me in the program. Good evening to all the your viewers. And I hope we're going to have an interesting conversation.
Okay. First, your appraisal of Cameroon's opposition.
Well, Leonard, you know, we for a very long time, the Cameroon's opposition has been in shambles. And for quite some time, Cameroonians have been calling on the opposition to come together and form some kind of a coalition. Unfortunately, the opposition has remained stuck to divisive tendencies, with each opposition party wanting to, and at some point trying to demonstrate their ability to be the most powerful opposition party, to the extent that some people view their struggle more or less like a struggle to be the main opposition party rather than to be a formidable challenger to President Paul Biya.
Okay, so the opposition so far, are they working together, or you say some people think that they are a real opposition and others are sellouts?
Yeah, that's a very complex issue with the Cameroonian opposition, in the sense that, you know, because of this issue of divided opposition and the fact that they want to project themselves as the major opposition party, they try to smear each other. So there is this kind of smear campaign going on, to the extent that they will preach, one opposition party will preach the propaganda that the other is an insider of the regime, is an accomplice of the regime, all of that to smear that particular opposition party. And so the unfortunate thing is that Cameroonians fall very easily into this kind of propaganda. And so it becomes difficult to be able to clearly know which party is what we call genuine opposition party and which one is actually an ally of the CPDM. Because, to be very honest with you, there are so many opposition parties that are a creation of the system. You see a small country like Cameroon with over 300 opposition political parties. That is unhealthy in a democracy. And you see the regime keeps doing that. The regime keeps creating smaller political parties and fractured the opposition group to keep them divided. But in the midst of all of that, people now, you know, opposition party leaders, they now realize that people hate the idea of opposition party aligning with the CPDM. And so they find that as an easy way to smear their opponent, to smear the other opposition party. And so what they do is they now create this this propaganda machine, and they start, especially with the use of social media and all of that, and they start spreading the idea gradually, and then very soon it becomes almost are certain that a particular or some particular political parties are genuine political parties and that some others are ally of the regime. And so this kind of divisiveness, this kind of smear campaign create further destabilize and further fracture the opposition, because it now create the opposition, bring the opposition into two camps. One camp is the so-called genuine opposition party, and the other camp, the so-called fake parties or ally of the regime.
But we have seen the opposition struggle for years with your late national chairman Frundi to see how they can work together, and consecutively they have failed to work together. We have seen the offshoot of new political leaders still not able to come together. What is fundamentally the problem that is causing these guys in stopping these guys to come together?
Yeah, the first thing, Leonard, which I will be frank to say it's the greed and self-centeredness among the leaders of some of these opposition parties. They feel that if it is not they who are the presidential candidate, no other person. That's the first thing. The second thing, which to me is the most fundamental, is the fact that opposition alliances in Cameroon and coalition in Cameroon is always over-focused, too much focused on the presidential election. So that immediately after the presidential election, all the political parties go to sleep, especially the opposition parties. Most of them go to sleep, and they only start coming back up when on the eve of another presidential election. And in that kind of a scenario, they see alliances only in the light of a single presidential candidate. So there is this too much focus as who is going to be that single opposition candidate. On the contrary, in what we see elsewhere, especially in Nigeria, we realize that preparation for elections and alliances are built several years before the election itself. If you see what is happening today with the opposition party in Nigeria that had their meeting recently, that happened, that is just what we are seeing in public, but these guys have been talking in the background. There have been negotiations have been going on. Compromises have been reached before the public now starts seeing what they are seeing. But in the case of Cameroon, the opposition parties become less interested in anything in the affairs of the state and anything that is happening, and they give up everything and they wait for the next election. And when that next election comes, they wait until the eve of the election, probably a few months to the election, to start really talking about coalition. And in that line, it becomes very difficult, Leonard, to really establish a concrete and solid coalition that can yield the required result. Because coalition is something that has to be built by, you talk about relationship with the opposition party, has to be built, first of all, the relationship has to be built over time. So there has to be that relationship, the opposition party leaders talking to each other, having a common ground on certain things, maybe electoral reforms, maybe they may be talking about parliamentary and council election, because all of this is not just about presidential election. You also have parliamentary election, you also have council elections and senatorial election and all of that. So these opposition parties need to be strategizing within this time frame, within this period, and talking to each other, finding out ways in which they can implement a carry out reform. They can pressure the regime to carry out reform in the electoral system. And then with that kind of relationship, which of course started, I think immediately after the last presidential election, there was some kind of a coalition between the SDF, the MRC, the CDU and all of that. And that was really, that was a laudable initiative. And we thought they were going to build on that, because actually that is where it begins. You build on that kind of relationship, then eventually start talking about a coalition for a presidential election. You don't just get up on the eve of a presidential election and start saying, oh, this party should come and join me, I am the big party. Or say, oh, this political party should join me, and that we should create this alliance to defeat Paul Biya. You don't do all of that on the eve of an election. You build that over time.
Okay, you build that over time. This year we've seen a coalition. It is true that the SDFC, your party, says you guys are into a coalition with trade unionists, and then there is a coalition around Professor Maurice Kamto, and another coalition around Batuni Akere Muna. But you have a problem with the designation of leaders of coalitions. What do you find wrong in this process?
Yeah, the first thing that is wrong with the process is that they are always, like what we've seen is that they're just being handpicked. The process does not involve any kind of negotiation. It does not involve any kind of compromises and discussions, because like I said earlier, for there to be a candidate, they should be talking. The different political party leaders need to start talking. They talk to each other, they reach compromises, they negotiate, and arrive at a position where they now follow a democratic means or approach to select the single candidate. And for that democratic approach to be arrived at, what they do is perhaps they get they do a primaries within that coalition, or perhaps they set down ground rules as to how an objective ground rules as to how the candidate is going to be selected. And they do that. The selection could be done among the opposition parties there present, who could now elect one person. And then also there should be some rules, there should be some conditions. If you are becoming the unique presidential candidate, you are going to be there for a transitional period of 5 years, of 6 years, of 7 years. And during this period, you are going to put in place these electoral reforms. You are going to put in place, rebuild and strengthen our institutions, the judiciary, the parliament, and all of that. And then you organize fresh election in which you do not become a candidate. In that case, anybody who is going in already knows all of this. And they do that and sign maybe some kind of a memorandum of understanding with each other. So, but unfortunately, what happened is that political parties call their convention. In their convention, they invite members of other political parties as observers. In the SDF, we have been doing that for a long time. We have always been, when we call a convention, we always invite sister political parties to come. But when these sister political parties come, and then you end up your convention by reading a resolution saying that those candidates have nominated you as their presidential candidate, that is what I call a coalition by hijack. That is a coalition by ambush. That is not the type of coalition we are talking about. You don't get a coalition by ambush. You don't get a coalition by simply inviting people to your convention, and at the end of the convention, they have not even signed any document. They have not even made any commitment. You go to the public and you declare and you read a resolution and you say, these people have now come under a coalition led by me. That is not the kind of coalition that can be sustainable, that can yield the kind of results that we are talking about. So basically, those are the issues, those are the problems we find with the Cameroonian coalition, or the coalition that that is currently being built by these different groups. And you mentioned the SDF having a coalition with the trade union. I just want to correct to say that it is not only with that trade union. There are a few other political parties too that are part of that coalition. But the SDF believe in a broad-based coalition. And what do we mean by that? Broad-based coalition, not just coalition of political parties. It's a coalition of political parties, coalition of civil societies organizations, university professors, university students, civil society organizations, and all of that, religious bodies, and all of that. Those are that's the kind of broad-based coalition that the SDF advocate for, and not just a coalition of one or two political parties. Because at the end of the day, we need everybody on board for this to yield the required result. We need everybody. The political parties alone cannot achieve that.
Okay, yeah, but so as we speak, you say the SDF is going for a broad-based coalition.
I mean, they advocate for that.
Yeah, but are you saying that that coalition has not yet designated a flag bearer?
Well, the coalition we have right now, the SDF with the other political parties had reached an understanding. Like I said, it was a negotiation, a process that began with negotiation and all of that. And they had given their go-ahead for the SDF to nominate a candidate for the election. And so the SDF did. And like you said, we have the Cameroon Labour Union, which Kalamo, so to speak, that is a civil society organization, and they have given their blessings to the SDF candidate for election. But then what I'm saying is that if we have a broad-based coalition, and that has to involve all the other major opposition parties to speak, when we come down the table, we can now get into the process of democratically choosing who the candidate is. But you should understand that the SDF is the only candidate so far. The SDF has the only candidate so far that was nominated through a democratic process, through a primary that took place during their convention in Yaoundé. I don't think there was any other political party that had this kind of process.
Okay, but we saw the CRM. They had a convention in Yaoundé.
You mean
CRM?
They had a convention, not a primary. That's the difference. They had a convention. He did not. Kanto did not stand in for election. He was nominated. He was handpicked. In the case of Joshua Osei launched his the whole thing was launched. People were called up to submit their candidacy for the election, and the election was taking place, and he was voted. You know, when we talk of election, he may have stood alone, but then he needed to get a certain percentage of vote to be able to be the candidate. So therefore, he went through the primary.
Okay, went through the primaries. Can we say personal ambitions are overshadowing the people's demand for unity amongst you guys?
Of course, and that was what I said in my initial statement. That a lot of people, a lot of political leaders, they really do not listen to the cry of Cameroonians. Ordinarily, what obtains is that politicians need to listen to their constituents. And who are their constituents? Their constituents are the voters, the people that they require to vote them. And if the people say that this is what we want, this is what we are looking for, you need to be listening to them. That is why in advanced democracy like in the United States, you see that polls are conducted to see the issues that matters most to the voters. That is because in an election, just like in a business, they say the customer is the king. In every election, the customer in this case is the voters, and the voters are the king. They are the ones who decide who becomes the leader. And so for that reason, if you want their vote, you need to be listening to them. You need to hear what they are telling you. And I don't think there is any Cameroonian who will tell me that they are not listening. They are not listening to Cameroonians telling them that they want a coalition of opposition political parties. Overwhelmingly, Cameroonians are frustrated with the current regime. Overwhelmingly, they see the current president as not being fitting enough to continue leading.
Yeah, but elections should decide that.
Well, elections should decide that, but we are seeing trends. That's why trends exist. That's why opinion polls in every election they matter. In our case, we really do not have a systematic opinion poll, but you can hear people talking in the street.
Who betrayed coalitions? We had elections in 2011.
Yes.
The CPDM won. 2018, the CPDM still won. Who betrayed the opposition?
Well,
is it the population?
Well, it's not the population that betrayed them. Like I said, I was moving to the fact that the people are talking, and we need to be listening to them. They are saying that they want the opposition political parties to come together, and that they want a single candidate in the opposition to be an opposition candidate. And so what I'm saying is that as politicians, we have a responsibility to listen to them. We have a responsibility to hear their cry. If they tell you that this is what they want, it becomes arrogant for you to tell them, oh no, a coalition is not what we think will work. We think this is what will work. That to me becomes arrogant. You are now being arrogant to the people whom you need their vote. And so therefore you need to listen to them. Listen to them. Why do they want you to come together? Why do they want a coalition? And if they say they wanted a coalition, you need to give them that. Come together, otherwise you will be going in for an election, and those people that you expect them to vote for you, they will not do that. They will not vote for you because they are dissatisfied with the fact that you refuse to listen to them. And so that is why I said every politician, every serious politician must have their ears on the ground.
Okay, they must have their ears on the ground. 2011 they failed, 2018 they have failed, but there is also this notion where people themselves, the population, does not believe in the ballot box because of so much discouragement coming from you guys. You say Elecam cannot be trusted, nothing good can come from elections. You say all of these things, yet you are hoping when elections are called for these same people to go and vote and give you victory. Is that not also where there is a problem?
I agree with you, Leonard. I agree with you, and I totally disagree with people, with politicians and political parties that pay too much focus on discrediting the electoral system because it doesn't work to our favor. I mean, those of us in the opposition. Listen, the Chairman Osi, in one of his statements, made a very interesting statement that I like to listen to. He said that the regime cannot win you over with their policies. They cannot win you over because they don't have any. They cannot win you over with their record. They don't have a record to show. So the only way they can win you over is discouraging you, make you believe that the electoral system is so flawed that no matter how much you vote, they are always going to win. And so get you to be discouraged, and you give up, and then they win by forfeiture, so to speak, like we say in sport. They win by forfeiture. They win a smooth win without so much challenges. And that is why I say over the years, a majority of those who register to vote are those who were encouraged to vote by the CPDM, and they did that by doing targeted registration. They targeted people that they believe, they trust, they are going to vote for the CPDM and that they could easily buy. Those are the people that actually they encouraged to register to vote. For the rest of us and the rest of Cameroonians, what they did was that they made sure they discouraged them as much as possible not to go out and vote. And that technique has been working very well. And so therefore, it becomes naive for any political party at this state, any opposition party at this state, to be discrediting the electoral system. We all know that the electoral system has its flaws. Which other opposition electoral system in the world does not have flaws? Even in the United States, the greatest electoral power in the world had flaws. They had flaws. There were criticism and all of that. We heard of accusations of vote rigging during the 2020 presidential election. But then, what we should be doing right now is encouraging more and more people to register and vote. And when we register and vote massively, massive registration and massive voting makes rigging very difficult for the regime. For example, it is very easy to switch an election where the difference is just 0.1, 0.2 or 0.3. But it becomes extremely difficult when the difference is a wide margin.
Let's say 3 million.
Fine. When you say about 3 million voters, it becomes very difficult because you do not even know where to fit all those 3 million in which polling station, that it will not be very glaring that you did that. And so therefore, that is why you see the SDF had for a long time been championing this cry for electoral reform. But they have learned their lesson, and I like that. They have learned their lesson, that on the eve of crucial election like this, they should keep that aside for the moment and focus on getting people to register to vote, and stop this idea of hammering on Electoral, discrediting the electoral system, because the more we do that, the more people we discourage from registering to vote.
Do you guys in the opposition trust one another?
Well, that's a difficult question to ask. When you ask if we trust one another
As opposition parties?
yes, there is that is where I said it depends. Opposition alliances or opposition coalition or whatever relationship is built over time. The kind of relationship that is built over time, when and it goes even beyond politics. Okay, when a leader of a opposition party, an important leader of an opposition party, for example, dies, and then another leader of another opposition party is holding his press conference next door, where that leader of the opposition party is being laid in state, that creates mistrust among opposition parties. It creates antagonism. It creates hatred and division among opposition parties, irrespective of your differences. We are Africans, and in Africans we know that even if you quarrel with your neighbor, once you hear the shout of a mourning or cry that someone has died in the next compound, no matter how angry you are with that person, you must move there to condole with that person. That is what we as Africans, we know naturally. And so these are some of the things that when you see them exist, they happen, they create that antagonism and then expand the cracks. Another thing is when opposition parties spend their time on, and their supporters, so to speak, sometimes the leaders of those opposition parties do not overtly bash other opposition parties, because they know that the public do not like to see that. What they do is that they implant people, they implant their supporters on social media and on different platforms to be doing that work for them, and they sit back and admire them doing that. And so you find supporters of one political parties tearing down the other opposition party, and then you find a situation where people take about 60% of their time, even 70% of their time, resources and energy in bashing another opposition party. It doesn't work like that anywhere in the world except in Cameroon. The degree to which opposition parties spend their time bashing other opposition parties, and it doesn't only end with opposition parties, even some Cameroonians themselves who claim that they want change. You see the kind of things that they write about some opposition party leaders. It is discouraging. It is damaging to the opposition, so to speak. I believe that people who say they want change, the focus, in fact 95% of the focus should be on the regime in place. That is the problem. The problem is not another opposition party. The problem is the regime in place. Even if there are opposition parties that have been created and managed by that regime, it is the regime's creation and it is the regime's fault. And so what you should be doing is spend your time going after that regime. When you go on social media at every turn bashing one opposition party, castigating this opposition party or that opposition party simply because you do not agree with them, you might think that you are doing some good to the opposition party to which you support, but you are actually harming your own self, because you are actually, in doing so, strengthening your major opponent, which is the regime in place. And so therefore it is important that opposition party supporters, sympathizers, and even the general Cameroonian public, those of the general Cameroonian public who believe that they want change, they should focus on one person. Leave the job of some opposition parties being castigated to the CPDM. That is their job. It is their job to be going after the opposition parties, to be castigating them, to be running them down. That is the job of the CPDM and their supporters. Leave that to them. When you go helping them again and doing that job for them, who do your own job for you? Who help you build your own candidate, your own opposition candidate? And so the focus should be on, irrespective of which candidate there are in the opposition, encourage them, push them forward, support them. No, there is no angel, there is no saint in the political realm. There's no saint, there's no angel, and everybody has some weaknesses. Every single one of them have some weaknesses. There is not a single one of them that is a saint. And so therefore, this idea of making an evil or vilifying some particular candidate is not helpful to the opposition, so to speak.
There is some persons are always very quick to say that there is fragmentation amongst you guys, the opposition, because the ruling party is sponsoring some guys from behind. But after more than 30 years of politicking as opposition party, should we today still be blaming somebody for knocking our heads when we know that this guy does not want our good?
Thank you. Those are the kind of flimsy excuses, and I call that an easy escape route for some opposition parties. That is an easy way to say, oh, we don't want a coalition, by going around saying, oh, these are opposition parties that were implanted by the regime to come and destabilize the opposition. And so they always have something very easy to run away from the idea or from the call of the people for them to come together. Listen, Leonard, like you rightly said, we have played this politics of emotions, this politics of whipping up sentiments for way too long. Frundi did that in the 90s. I don't know any politician in this age who was as charismatic, as radical as Frundi was. There is none. I've not seen any that was as radical as Frundi was. But before he died, he realized that that approach was not the right one. He realized that from his experience, he realized that you when you spend your time only being radical, only castigating and all of that, it do not yield fruit for you. And so that is why you find today his successor, Joshua Osei, has adopted this more nuanced, this more strategic approach of politics. And that is what opposition parties need to start doing. They need to start being more strategic than more emotional. They need to start finding out, what is the CPDM doing differently that we are not doing? What are they doing differently that we are not doing? There's something they are doing. If they are rigging elections, how do we counter that? How do we outsmart them in their game? We cannot just be the crybaby all the time. Oh, the CPDM is rigging. Oh, the CPDM is rigging. We cannot spend our entire life crying over whether the CPDM is rigging without finding a way of countering that rigging mechanism. What have we seen? What is the strategy have we put in place? In the 2018 presidential election, where some candidate claim that they won, in most polling stations across the nation, they did not have representatives. And now you talk about rigging. How do you expect to win when in almost 70% of the polling stations you do not have representatives, you do not have polling agents? In almost 70%, how then can you really sincerely look at people in their eyes and say that you won that kind of election? You cannot. It's definite. You cannot win that kind of an election. You don't have representative in all the police stations. And so instead of wasting time, resources and energy talking about how the elections have been rigged, think about where it is done, especially today with modern technology. I would have thought that the opposition should have developed an app in which people can go into different polling stations and they would have recruited all polling agents in all about 30 something, is it 37,000 or 31,000 polling stations across the country, and have 2-3 polling agents in each of them. As the results are coming in, as they're counting the results at the different polling stations, they are sending the trends in real time on those apps. That is what they should be spending their time doing. That is what the opposition should be thinking.
Okay.
Thinking about how to counter the fraud and not only spending time.
Mr. Jokam Chamini this week on this same platform. He sat where you are now, and he said they're working on an app that is going to permit them have real time information on what is happening across Cameroon. So
that's awesome.
Yes, he says they are working on that. Good evening, division and infighting. The opposition's inability to collectively organize has led to the CPDM's continued dominance. Petty politics and disagreement over representation have hindered coalition building efforts. Lack of effective communication. Some parties like the SDF have been criticized for poor external communication, leading to frustration among supporters. Regional differences. Previous attempts at opposition alliances have faltered due to regional differences and infighting, by Chief Enga Peter Pakas writing there. But I want us to look at the core of our opposition. Do you have the impression that people create political parties because they want to gain power? Because most of these opposition parties operate only within some subdivisions, others in specific divisions, others only in regions, and maybe some in some cities. They don't go beyond these cities. Do they really intend to take power?
Yeah. So you see, Cameroon is a very, our political landscape is a weird one. It's a strange one. It's one that it's rare to find it anywhere. Anybody can just get up tomorrow and mix 2 letters together and put them together, or 2-3 letters together. They scramble those letters and they call it the name of a political party in Cameroon. And each one of them have a personal, I don't know whether to call it personal, but they have a particular reason for which they are creating those political parties. There are those who create political parties in order to lobby for positions from the regime. There are those who create political parties in order to make business with it, so that when a candidate comes in that needs a political party to endorse them for presidential election, they can come give them some brisk money and then get them to that. Or maybe a political party needs some kind of an alliance or semblance of it. They come and give you, they ask you, you give them, tell you their price, and then you give it to them, and then they join you. There are many others who just want to be spoilers. They are just created to be spoilers, to fragment the opposition and destabilize the opposition. So there are many different types of opposition parties in Cameroon, and when you go into these opposition parties, there are very few that have clear political ideology. Because anywhere when you hear about a political party, there must be a political ideology. Ask Cameroonians what the political ideology of Party A is, Party B is, Party C is, and see if they are going to tell you in concrete terms what the political ideology of perhaps the political party they are supporting is about. They don't. People do not even vote in election based on what you have to give them, to offer, what you have promised. Because in every election, you have a socio-economic and political program that you're selling to your clients, in this case, the voters. And you want to tell them that, okay, this is what I would do if I am elected. This is what I would do if I'm elected. So in most cases, Cameroonians do not even look at those things. What they look at is, one, are you very popular? Can you pull crowds? That is the one. The second one, are you from my region of origin? Do you come from my region of origin? Are you my tribesman? Are you somebody that if you win, maybe my community and my tribes people are going to benefit from you? So tribalism is another strong factor. And the last one is materialism. people support a political party as to what they will gain from that political party, whether it is a bottle of beer that they will gain, whether it is cube of savon, whether it is a ministerial position that they have promised your uncle or your aunt or something like that. These are the various reasons, unfortunately, that many people support political parties, and none of this has to do with their interests. How would this person help me? How would this person address the issue that is most important to me? For example, I'm a young man, I just graduated from the university. How is this candidate going to ensure that I get a job? How is it going to ensure that there is job creation, not only for me, but for the millions of others who have graduated like me and need a job? Which political party has a program for that? Another person might be a farmer. How will this person make sure that when I cultivate my crops and I take them to the market, I am going to make some money out of it? I'm going to make real money out of my sales from the market. Another person's concern could be the hike in prices of basic commodities, where everything is up there. What is this person's strategy of bringing down these prices? And many others. These are the kind of things that people need to be thinking about when they support one or the other political party. It doesn't matter whether this party is a popular political party, or because the moment you start seeing people looking at what is important to them, you start seeing a conglomeration of people moving towards the right candidate and the right party.
Okay. Sikum Cynthia says, I'm watching live from Tole. Husoni Lucius Joshua says, I'm watching from Bambui. Eno Tawa is watching from Bamenda Bambili. Rima Shalom is watching from Yaoundé. Jean-Claude is watching from Limbe. Frederick Sunju Suwi is watching from Bamenda. He is an eloquent speaker with insight. Kudos, okay? Tata Peter says, I'm watching at Lada in Yaoundé. Meche Laurentia is watching from Yaoundé. Now, but do we see the opposition ferociously fighting one another than looking at taking power?
Well,
they fight amongst you people.
Like I said in my initial intervention, at some point, I feel like the opposition political parties
are fighting
more
with
interested in
the second spot.
They are more interested in being the major opposition party, and so the fight is not to win presidential election and change things for the interests of Cameroonians. The fight is to position themselves as a major opposition party and grab maybe the benefit that the major opposition party enjoys in the country. And so that is where the fight rather is. So the fight is rather being the major opposition party, and that is the key issue why most of them do not want to come together. If we and make Leonard as the presidential candidate, that will mean that Leonard will be the prominent figure, and therefore everybody will see Leonard as the opposition leader and not me. And so that is where the whole thing is stemming from. And so they want to be seen as major opposition leader, as major opposition party, rather than winning and taking out the regime.
Okay, so the fight is amongst you people. How do you think parties should build trust for one another?
Yes, the first thing is they need to start talking to each other. They need to start talking to each other. They need to be meeting more regularly. Opposition party leaders need to have some kind of a forum where they meet. Maybe they could be meeting maybe in 4 months, every 4 months, every 5 months. They should be talking to each other. They should be strategizing. They should be having a single voice on issues affecting the life of the nation. Cabral Libi should not be talking about the electoral system in one way and going left, and Joshua Osi is talking about the same thing and going right, and Maurice Kamto is talking the same thing and going in a different direction. The opposition leader needs to be taking the same decision. So when there is a pressing issue that is affecting the life of the nation, like maybe the outbreak of the crisis in the English-speaking part of Cameroon, opposition leaders immediately meet in their forum. They immediately call themselves together. They say there is an emergency. They sit, they talk about the issue, and come out with a single position as the opposition. That is coalition. Coalition is not just about election. Coalition is also about issues. So they should come out, have a platform where when there is a critical issues affecting the life of the nation, they should come together. When there is a sudden hike in the prices of fuel and Cameroonians are crying, the opposition should come together, take a position on that, and take action. What actions should we take moving forward in case in this situation? They take an action. In the case of maybe the football crisis that was rocking and people were talking about it, and the opposition was looking like they do not care, the opposition leaders come together in a platform and talk about it. There again, that is a platform. Now, Leonard, when they start having that kind of conversation and that kind of decision in issues that affect the life of the nation, years before election comes, by the time election is approaching, it becomes easier for them to come together and start talking about a unique candidate. Because when I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, the opposition should send in a unique candidate, the opposition cannot just come from the blues and send a unique candidate. It is supposed to be something that has been worked out for several years, something that has been built.
Okay, if you are watching the program across Cameroon or beyond, and you have a question for Mr. Nzifo, send it to that number, and I'll ask him that question for our clarification. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Danny Piano from Kumba. I'm really enjoying the program right now. Thank you very much, Danny Piano, for the encouragements. Okay. Oops. Good evening in the studio. I'm enjoying the program, but one thing I have noticed is that opposition political parties are divided, and so they have to come together and work for the interests of Cameroon, for the Cameroonian people, and keep aside egos. Thanks. Rostan is watching from Fengudron Mbange. Rostan is not far from where we are. It's a stone throw from here. Good evening to you, Rostan. And good evening to you, Mr. Buinda Victor, who is watching us from Douala here. Good evening, sir. I'm seeing that Mr. Paul Biya should give power to another person. Let Englishman should rule this country. Okay, that's a debate. It's taking me to the next question I had for you, Mr. Ndifo Richard. Good evening, sir. I'm Makegil, watching live from the city of Boya. Good evening to you. Good evening to all of you. And I'm Samuel Quintin Day, watching you guys from Bonaberry, Grand Anga in Douala. There was also this talk about the need for an Anglophone president. I don't know whether there was need for the opposition to take a consideration towards that. What has been your stand towards that?
Yes, I have always advocated for the fact that there could be an Anglophone president. I am an Anglophone. I have children. I want my son or my daughter to look up to a president that speaks the language that he too speaks. Look up to a president that relates with him, that see through the same lens that he sees things. When I hear the argument on the other side, oh, we want a president that is competent. It don't matter whether they are Anglophone or Francophone and whatever. And this is it. Let me be very clear here. Nobody say that because you advocate for an Anglophone president, it means you could just go out there and pick any Tom, Dick, or Harry because he is an Anglophone and make him president. I believe that there are competent, credible, in fact, great leaders, people who can manage this country, who can run this country, who are both Anglophones and Francophones. And what some of us who believe in this idea of an Anglophone, that an Anglophone too could be president, is that among these very credible and experienced and qualified candidates in both the Francophone, among both the Francophone and Anglophone, we have had experience with two Francophone leaders for over 60 years. We think that it is about time we should have someone who is also from the other side, who also speak English, to be the Anglophone president, to be the president of Cameroon. At least to give us the feeling that we are part of this country, we are part of Cameroon. Those who criticize the call for an Anglophone president are overlooking and undermining the history of this country. It is not that, it's no doubt that when Barack Obama came up, many African Americans, many black Americans were excited. They were excited. Why were they excited? They wanted their children to be able to look on TV and see a president that looked like them, a president that also looked black like them. Just like we want to see a president that can speak like us, who can speak the language that we speak, and not just speak the language that we speak, but have experience our history, have our experience, know the kind of things that we have gone through, and will better understand our plight, will better understand what we are going through. So it is not like we are saying that we should pick an Anglophone president irrespective of who the person is, or irrespective of whether the person is qualified or not. We believe that there are very highly qualified Anglophone candidates, on both sides.
Ngala Evelyn Bongwimi says, I'm watching live from Douala. Lizette Zeti Kosu, I'm watching from Bonduma, and that's my history teacher, Mr. Nzifo Richard, on board. Good evening to you. Yes, that is your history teacher, because that is the subject he teaches for long now. Good evening. I'm Wade Miracle. The program is very interesting, but my main concern, the opposition parties should be more united in order to succeed in the race. Everybody wants a united opposition. I don't know whether the opposition are also listening to you people. Good evening, sir. I'm Adamu Joachim from Bamenda, my friend Quen. I just wish to appreciate you so well for the program. I'm enjoying it. I suggest Paul Biya should give birth to the next person. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Mayam Eric, watching from Mwa. Good evening to you. Recently, I had Madame Kawala on this very platform. She was my guest, and I asked her the reason, or so many persons who are watching were sending messages asking why she left the SDF, and she responded to their worries, and you took time to respond to her on social media. Can you tell our audience what you wrote to Madame Ka?
Yes, first of all, Madame Kawala is somebody I respect so much. I hold him in very high esteem. Like I said in my write-up, sometime in 2011, I was privileged to grant an interview to CNN that I praised her and her courage as the first woman who could run as president for Cameroon, and the courage that she had. And she called me, and we spoke about that, and I gave her my support at that time. But I would say that I was really disappointed with her interview and the kind of things that she said about the SDF, many of which was not true. And to see somebody like that I respect so much, make statements that were not accurate simply because she wanted to provide some kind of defense for herself why she left the SDF. The SDF is an institution. People come and go, and the institution remains. In every institution, people do come and go. And when she claimed in that interview that the reason the SDF failed to grab power was because the SDF went in for parliamentary elections and council elections, and that they were making huge money from those council and parliamentary elections, and therefore did not find any interest to take over the government. I found that as really disrespectful to the SDF. I found that as insulting to the SDF, especially a party that fought so hard for Cameroon to have the democracy and the speech, the free speech we are talking about today. The problem I found fundamentally in her outing was that she failed to recognize the challenges that the SDF had undergone over the years. And a lot of people always make that mistake. People do not see the difficulties, the challenges that the SDF as an opposition party had gone through. Let me cite a few of them, if you will permit me, Leonard. You see, as an opposition party, and one of the strongest opposition party that Cameroon has ever known, it had been a target of the regime. And members of the SDF, not just target in the sense that they are being targeted from holding or stopped from holding meetings like what we see today with the MRC and all of that, but it goes far deeper than that. Those who were members of the SDF, who were working in the civil service, were systematically targeted. They were given punitive transfers. Many people were transferred to very difficult places in this country. After they have even worked there and then struggled and came out of those places, they were sent back to those very difficult places for the mere reason that they were SDF militants. Many people, including myself, are highly qualified in their professions, but they could not gain promotion within that because of their alignment with the SDF. And so for that reason, many SDF militants who saw that their career, their professional career were being jeopardized by the mere fact that they were members of the SDF, they started withdrawing from the SDF. That is one factor. The other factor is the fact that the regime was implanting people within the party to destabilize the party. And at some point, we remember when members within the party were pressuring the late chairman to join the government. Why? Because they wanted to be ministers, they wanted to be directors, they wanted to be this. And when the chairman resisted that kind of pressure, what happened is that they started falling away from the party, they started leaving the party, and so creating that kind of fragmentation within the party. There are a lot of those challenges. Again, financially, the party is not as wealthy. Nobody sponsors the SDF. The SDF manages resources based on little donations from its members, especially the NEC members, and do not really have the kind of resources that its main challenger, the CPDM, has at its disposal. And so Kawala took all of those challenges, dished them in a trash can, and summarized everything and said the SDF refused to be committed to take over power because they had members of parliament and councillors. That is oversimplifying the challenges that opposition leaders face. I see a lot of the new political parties that are emerging right now saying all sort of things about the SDF and all of that, and we are watching to see how far they are going to do differently. All right, we are seeing, because they are playing with the same system. You see, there is nothing that is happening today that is new, Leonard. You know that. There is nothing that is happening today. People act as if banning an MRC rally is something that has never happened in history. You know what used to happen? How Frundi used to be flushed with water cannons. They spray water cannons on him. We know how his car at some point was smashed with military trucks. His car was smashed until many people thought he had died in that. So some of these things that are happening today and people are getting excited are things that the SDF has gone through. They've gone through. What came out of it? Nothing. Okay. Nothing. Just to tell you that we are dealing with a chronic dictator, and we should not oversimplify challenging this dictator by saying that a political party has refused to be committed for change. And the question I ask is, if Kawala thought it was very easy to defeat this regime, why did she and her CPP not defeat the regime?
Okay. Sir, I'm really enjoying your program. So what we need is change in our country. Sir, I'm watching you from Bamenda, Pobia. Okay, is where we get these messages coming, so many of them, some of them are questions. We have seen coalition work in other countries like Kenya, Senegal, Nigeria. What are we failing to do that they are doing?
Yep. The first thing, let me cite the Nigerian coalition that brought Buhari to power.
Yeah.
That was a coalition that was built over several. They started thinking about.
It was from 2 years before election.
Before election, but work towards forming the coalition started way back, several years back, and there was, like I said earlier, there was discussion, there was negotiation going on in the background. The political parties, opposition parties, were talking to each other and finding strategizing and thinking about what was the best way out for all of this. And then finally, they culminated by doing what? They culminated by merging all the different political parties. They said since the regime was interested in creating political parties in order to fragment the opposition, what they would do is that, let me use Cameroon example to show you just an example, not really reality. The MRC say, oh, it's not necessary for us to be to exist. The SDF, not necessary for us to exist. PCRN, not necessary. UNDP, FSC, all of that. What they did was that they dissolved all of these political parties and formed a single opposition party, one party. And then in that party, and through a democratic process, Buhari was selected as the candidate for the opposition. That was how they were able to overthrow
the PDP.
The PDP, a long-standing ruling party since the dawn of democracy in Nigeria. That was how they defeated. And if you see what is happening now, right now, I've forgotten this party that is in power right now. The current political party that was an opposition party at that time is also becoming so strong that may also have to stay in power for too long. And that is what the opposition parties have realized, and they have decided. If you see what they did, they fused into the African National Congress or something like that. They fused into that party, and that party is a very little known political party. It did not come out second. It did not come out third or even fourth during the last presidential election. It came far behind. But that is the party that the Nigerian opposition parties have decided to use as the platform for their political coalition, while all of them dissolved into that political party. And so that's the strategy they're using. Again, in Kenya, the same thing happened. The opposition worked several years before the election. And so the thing that is really killing Cameroon is this idea of opposition parties going to sleep immediately after election. Immediately after election, they go to sleep, and then they just get up on the eve of election and start gesticulating. And at that time, it's already becoming late. And that's why I strongly believe, Leonard, I'm not a prophet of doom, but I strongly believe that even if the Cameroonian opposition successfully create a coalition at this time, it is too late to yield the desired result.
Why would it be too late?
Because
they have not done the homework.
They have not done the homework.
Because for the case of Kenya, they're already coming together against an election that is years ahead. In Nigeria, they're already coming together against elections that are also ahead. So, in Cameroon, can we say that it's an issue of ego? Because when you look at the coalition that is formed in Nigeria, even as popular as he is, we're talking about Obi, he went there and he has accepted to go under that party.
Exactly.
Irrespective of the fact that the guy is very popular. Is that what we are lacking?
That is the kind of humility that we need among opposition candidates. That kind of humility where you are ready to subscribe to a political platform, irrespective of whether it is a small party or a big party. You see this notion of this is a big party, this is a small party. That notion those are some of the things that have been killing the Cameroon opposition, because they feel that, oh, this party is big, and then the Cameroonians too, Leonard, are helping to create this kind of arrogance with some opposition parties. Go online, you see them say, go and join X. X is the bigger party. Go and join X. They will say, go and join B. Go and join this person. It is not about just going to join A, B, or C. Joining is not the matter. The matter is they have to start by talking. It is by talking that they come together. It is only after they come together that they can select a candidate. And so you cannot leave this process from them talking. You don't care whether they talk. From them coming together, you don't care whether they're coming together, to they should select X, Y, Z as the candidate. So we jump several steps and move to the final stage, which is the selection of candidates. That is where our focus is. And all our focus is on that final stage. And it fails at that final stage because we do not do our homework at the initial stage and do follow all the steps before arriving at the stage where we have to select a candidate.
Okay. What should be the expectations of Cameroonians vis-a-vis the opposition? It is true, you're already painting a bleak picture and saying that unfortunately it's looking like it's getting late for a coalition to deliver or cause a meaningful impact on what Cameroonians are expecting. However, when you talk with them, what are they saying? What do they expect from you people?
Yeah, a lot of Cameroonians, they have high hopes. What I read from Cameroonians is that they have high hopes. They believe that if the opposition comes together, they are going to win. It is true that if they come together, they are going to win. But what I'm saying is that they need to come together. They need to come together at a time when they can really do some planning, do some strategic work. When are they going to come out with their manifesto? Because when they come together, they're coming together meaning that they have to present a program. A coalition program. They're not coming together to use, for example, we are coming together behind Leonard. We are not coming together to use Leonard's program. If we are using Leonard program, what if Leonard program differs from my program on education? What happens to my program on education? What happened to X programs on political reforms? What happened to this other person's program on health care? And so when we do not come together and then build a program that takes everybody's interest into account, because the interest is to serve Cameroonians, but each one has a vision for Cameroon. Each of these candidates have a vision. As a leader, you have a vision for Cameroon. You cannot just say they should all just throw those visions away and just rally behind you. Even if we are choosing you as the candidate, we should not just surrender all our vision. We should not just throw our visions into the bush and then follow you and all your vision to the final point. That is where there is a problem. So we must come together we bring our visions together, we look at them. What do you think about education? What do you think about healthcare? What do you think? And then we talk about these different visions. We reach a compromise about it. I may be thinking about federalism. That will be my vision. Federalism might be my vision. And Leonard's vision is not about federalism, a unitary state, which I do not like at all. I do not like. You cannot force me to go behind Leonard and just support Leonard and his unitary state. Therefore, Leonard and I need to talk and reach some compromise where it can be in between the unitary state and the federalism that I so much cherish. And then I will feel that in that coalition, at least I am not a candidate, but my vision is included and will be carried by that unique candidate. So, but that is what we fail to look at. People fail to look at that part of it. Everybody's focused on who is the candidate. Who is the candidate? There should be one candidate. There should be one candidate. One candidate, fine. That one candidate is driving which vision? What vision is he driving?
Okay. Good evening, sirs. I'm Jume Alexis. I'm watching you from Yaoundé. Almost every day we need the opposition to come together and choose either Barrister Ben Muna, no, it's Akere, you meant, or OC. Okay, it's sure. It will surely work. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm Prince from Bambili. Please ask, sir, if the regional assemblies put in place by the current regime was needed in the first place, because me, as a common man, I have not felt the impact. Please read my message. Daddy, I have read it. This one says the present opposition we have as at now is not convincing at all. Personal interest and party discipline is primordial to the party leaders than the interests of the nation. Through a solid coalition, I hope for a change will come from the civil society. Derek Wala is writing from Chang. Good evening, sir. This opposition take the population for granted by not accepting to form a one front, which is our cry. I plead to the population to not ever join this opposition in any protest again if this opposition do not come together. I'm Fortuk Johnson from Bamenda. So I'm really enjoying your program, sir. What we need is change in our country, sir. Okay, and it's this one says read my message too. I don't know which message you want. Chief Enga Peter Parkas, I've read your message. I'm sure that was the first message I read, except you were not following the program. Is it too late, or can the opposition still save face? Because Jokam Chamini was my guest here 2-3 days ago. He said they were from meeting some party leaders in Yaoundé and that they were going back to continue the process, but he actually outlined steps similar to what you are saying, that there was need for all of them to come together. They actually keep aside the respective manifestos of political parties and then look at the crucial issues that needs fixing, urgent fixing in Cameroon, outline them, and then use that now to go for elections. But amongst them, I'm sure, use the parameters you are thinking about to choose someone amongst them who is going in for a transition. Once he gets to power, now they fix what they have to fix, cleans almost every spot or aspect that they think is not working in the country before they can call for fresh elections.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. My only fear is time. We don't have time on our side. Elections are prepared several years in advance. Elections are not prepared on the eve. Talk less of preparing to face a chronic dictator and somebody who has been entrenched in power for over 40 years and who has everything in his hands to crush you. 4 months, Leonard, I have my doubts. 4 months. And all what he said is perfectly true, perfectly okay. Remember, I proposed this in 2018. In 2018, immediately after the 2018 presidential election, I said the opposition should start working on coming together. They should come together. They should put in place, outline a vision. And when I talk of a vision, I don't mean a comprehensive manifesto, so to speak. The vision could be, one, how do we address the Anglophone problem? How do we address the issue of electoral fraud in Cameroon? How do we reform the electoral system? How do we fix the judiciary? How do we address political institutions of the country, maybe the Constitutional Council and all of that? How do we reduce the powers of the president? The president has so much powers into his hands. How do we reduce that? All those very critical issues are pointed out. And then after doing that, that is the first step. After doing that, they now move to the next step. And the next step is, how do we get to defeat this person in power? We need resources. How do we get these resources? They start some kind of fundraising, and the population will be excited seeing that the opposition are working. Look, do you know why they keep calling on the opposition to come together, despite the fact that we have seen opposition coalitions? They don't take those coalitions seriously. Cameroonians only start taking anything coalition seriously when they hear the SDF, the MRC, the PCRN coming together. When these three come together, that is when Cameroonians will start nodding their head that now you guys are talking. If these three are not coming together, they're not talking. Any coalition with any small party here and there are just, I'll call it manipulation. They're just playing to the gallery. They're not doing what Cameroonians want them to do. And so my fear is that, because I like to be pragmatic and I like to be realistic. I don't like to live in illusion. I really do not see, with the current state and the current situation, that if these political parties right now they come together, it's going to yield the result that we expect. I really do not see that happening.
Do you expect? If you do not believe, do you expect to see the calling of a national opposition convention?
Yes,
if it's possible.
Yes, I think that there are moves which I appreciate. There is this initiative that I learned was this initiative that came from Madame Tamoino Damjoya. I have seen that kind of initiative. That is one of the first serious initiative that I've seen and that I can appreciate, because it begins with talking. It begins with that kind of negotiation. So I'm hopeful that other opposition parties are going to come into the fold. And then what I am hoping to see is that they should come together, even if they are not going to succeed in 2025. But they should come together. If they come together and they do not succeed at the end of the day in 2025, what I think is that even if President Bauer is above 90, we are not hoping for anything bad to happen to him, God forbid, but he is a human being. He's a human being. And if he wins in 2025, I really do not see him having the strength and stamina to take him through to the next election in that will be coming, I think 2028 or something. No, sometimes in the 2032 or something like that. I really do not see Bia getting to that point. And so this will give room for the opposition to start preparing for the next election that is coming. And in that case, they would have prepared perfectly well to be able to face the next election that is coming, and also be getting themselves ready for an eventual transition, because that is what may eventually happen in Cameroon.
Yes, we not also at the spot confused, because the civil society is always left out. There are members of the civil society who could bring in the desired wisdom to cause a change, but are not brought into the fold for discussions with the opposition party. Everybody is looking up to opposition parties, completely turning a blind eye towards the civil society. But I see, is the civil society not also failing to some extent, not wanting to get implicated in political issues?
We like quoting Senegal a lot. And in Senegal, the coalition that brought this young man to power, power, was not a coalition of political parties or opposition parties. It was a coalition of Senegalese. A coalition of Senegalese. In that coalition, there were opposition parties in it, there were religious bodies in it, there were university professors, there were students, there were civil society organizations, there were every single group that matters in Senegal were part of that coalition. When it comes to Cameroon, this is the thing. Religious bodies do not want to even mention anything that links them to politics. They don't want to align to it, with the exception of the Catholic Church that usually reference or make some reference to some political events and all of that, and make some very strong statements, a political statement. The rest are very careful not to identify with politics. The same with civil society organizations. Civil society organizations are busy doing their thing without, and doing it very carefully, and making sure that they do not step on anything that has to do with politics. They just stay their way doing their things by their own. And then you have this other group of people that has made change happen in several places. I know they contributed hugely to change coming in North Africa, what we call the Arab Spring. I'm talking about what? Social media bloggers. Our bloggers are very satisfied with talking about what I'll call Kwata Kongosa. That is what they are interested in. That is what they find interest in talking about. Nobody wants to mention anything politics, or if it is politics, they want to mention it in a way that looks like it is just reporting what happened, news or all of that. They are not involved. They are not talking forcefully. And so when you ask, why are they not being brought in? Nobody brings you in. You bring yourself into the fold. I don't think anybody came and knocked my door and say, Mr. Ndifo, I want you to be involved in politics. I willfully, and seeing the way things were happening in this country, I got dissatisfied, I got angry with the way things are happening, and I told myself that I have to do something to change what is happening. And so I got involved. And that is what Cameroonians need to start thinking of doing. The moment we start shying, not wanting people to see us as politicians, not wanting to be part of anything that has to do with politics, and then the status quo will remain the way it is. The most vexing thing, Leonard, is that these people who do not even want to align with politics are the ones pointing, accusing fingers to the opposition for having failed. They're the ones pointing fingers, accusing them, oh, they have failed. The opposition has failed. There is no opposition in this world that has won without the support of the general public. None. If any that won, I just quoted the example of Senegal. It is thanks to the coalition of everybody. People contributing not only their time, they contribute their money, they contribute everything. How many of us Cameroonians can sit and donate 5,000 francs? No, 5,000 is too much. 500 francs to support a political party to push forward their cause. How many can donate 200 francs to support a political party to push their cause? We used to see that in the 90s when the SDF was just created, which was good. And that was why it was strong, it was forced, and when came close to defeating the regime. Of course, many believe, including myself, that they won, but it was taken away from them. But then, that was the first time in Cameroon that we ever came close to winning. That was the first and only time that we ever came close to defeating this regime. And at that time, people actually donated to the cause. People actually gave their time to the cause. People actually contributed, made effort. Everybody was on board in the cause. But today, It has become the affair of some group of people. They call them opposition, and I don't know what is the definition of opposition.
Okay, you don't know what is the definition of opposition, but you are a member of the opposition.
I'm a member of the opposition, and I believe that anybody who do not believe that Biya should still be in power is a member of the opposition. You do not necessarily need to be a member of a political party like myself, but the simple fact that you do not like Biya to be there again means you are a member of the opposition and you have a role to play to make sure that it doesn't happen. You cannot just wish Biya out of power. Okay. You need to work to get him out of power.
Okay, Bonkui says, hello, I'm watching from Boya. Nasa Cyprian is watching us from Three Corners in Womb. Ben Aaron is watching us from Tuba in Finge. Ngumbe Mamadou is watching us from Simbok Elundem in Yaoundé. Ngumbe, yes, is Simbok, yeah. Lizette Zite Kosu says, I'm watching from Bonduma, and that's my history teacher here. Kweche Emmanuel says, okay, Tiko. El Kamakanjo says, I'm watching from Bonaberi in Douala. Says, Rigobert Ayuk Obi says, watching from Boya, the opposition parties must keep aside their personal interests, listen and respond to the clarion call of the Cameroonian people to form a coalition. They should designate a vibrant, charismatic, visionary, and trustworthy candidate to be the flag bearer for the 2025 presidential elections. They should stop all the pride and the idea of belly politicking. Belly for front, okay, country for back. Now wait itself, okay. Diko Betrango says, I'm watching from Omispo in Douala. Spencer Ejele says, we don't have, okay. Bakati Colin Musa says, many months I have not enjoyed my Media Prime TV. Again, if you are facing any problem to receive my Media Prime TV, just rescan or you reset your decoder, or you write to me. I'll send you a new frequency. Some persons cannot watch us because they don't have the new frequency, or they have not been able to reset or rescan their decoders. Okay, Njila Bertrand is watching us from Balmayo. Jean-Claude says, I strongly support what the panelists just says, that they are credible Anglophones who manage this country very well. In fact, Mr. Leo, I foresee next president of this country to be an Anglophone. Auntie Vero, the rural teacher, says, hi, Mr. Kum Leonard, I'm watching from Banga. Good evening to all of you watching us from Mungo Division. Ginny Vicky Evangelist, Vicky says, I'm watching from Bamenda. Claudette Laika says, I'm watching from Fumbot. Mr. Leo, the issue of ID card has really hindered so many of us here from registering for the upcoming elections. Juliet Vanasho says, I'm watching from Isu Village. Great to know. Michael Kebuma says, can't watch from Mutengene because of light. And Sue Joseph says, Kumba, precisely, and Bonge subdivision. Nana Elvis Mokake says, I'm watching from South Africa. Bimela Lifote says, I'm watching from Limbe. Now, so what is I want us to wrap up on this page of the opposition. What is the prescription you are giving to Cameroon's opposition?
What I'm advising Cameroon opposition is start talking to each other. First. Second, there should be a platform, an opposition platform in Cameroon. They should have some kind of a convention or conference or something that meets every year, at least once every year, or at least twice every year. They should meet, and also meet when there are crucial issues affecting the life of Cameroonians. Again, when it comes to the issue of coalition, they should keep aside their individual differences. They should keep aside their antagonism with each other, no matter how much each other they have hurt each other. They should keep aside their personal grievances with each other and think about the interests of Cameroonians. And that is why we are politicians. when you're a politician, the first thing you have to think about is your constituents, the people you serve, the people you need them to vote for you. And so therefore, their interest should be above any other interest of yours. And so for that reason, they should come together, at least for this election, and even if at the end of the day it doesn't yield the required result, it would have built a momentum that will prepare for the next election. And so therefore, I am strongly inviting Cameroonian opposition leaders to start talking to each other, and to start taking seriously the wishes and aspirations of the people whose votes they want.
Okay, you guys are getting what he's saying. Please, Mr. Kum, tell you guys to stop being pessimistic. Hilary Mpunti Wanshambi is watching from Bafang Banka, okay, in the West region. Good evening to you. Emmanuel Shu is watching us from Bamenda in Ta Mulung, precisely. Good evening, Mr. Liu. For us to succeed in this country, the civil society should choose someone like Agbo Bala. The opposition are not serious since they can't form a common coalition. Remy is watching us from Binka Kingdom. Okay, I don't know where Binka Kingdom is. Good evening. Aju Solomon is watching from Kong Samba. The program is so interesting. Hi, Mr. Lawson. Etuge watching us from Boya. Good evening to you, Mr. Etuge. Good evening to you people in the panel. I'm Wilson Gong watching from Yaoundé at Awe Escalier. I'm really enjoying the program. Thank you, Wilson. Good evening, Mr. Leo is Precious watching from Boya. Please try and invite the head of the chiefs in Fako. We have so many things to talk about. Okay, if you can connect me to them, I'll bring them. Good evening, Mr. Kum Leonard and our firebrand panelists. I'm Angabu Noel watching from Tamtam BMRC. Cameroon's opposition still behave like lackeys. Let them sit up so that potential voters like myself can be convinced. Okay, you are at the beginning of the program. I also introduced you as the national president of the Bamendankwe Development Association. So tell me, you have been the Secretary General for this association for long, and you were recently voted. The people saw your work as SG and said they wanted you to continue at the higher level, or what?
Yeah, I have not only been working with not only been the Secretary General, I've also been the branch president of the Bamendankwe Development Cultural Association, Bamedka in Boya, where they saw my leadership style, and they believe and trusted in me, and made me the Secretary General of the part of the organization. And then after that, they thought that I have done so much and that I have what it takes to be the President General. Yeah.
So tell me, lots and lots of things are happening up there. Bamendankwe is the section upstation that we are seeing, from upstation right up to the palace. So that is the Bamendankwe that we're talking about. It is Bamenda 1 Council Municipality.
Absolutely.
That is Bamendankwe Village, and you are the president of the Cultural and Development Association. Lots of development going on there. But in the past years, a lot has been done by the association for the people of that village.
Yes, of course. Bamedka has been very focused on ensuring that Bamendankwe, the village Bamendankwe, which is, we call it the regional capital of the region, of the Northwest region. We thought that being the regional capital, we need to look better than any other village in the northwest. And so Bameka has dedicated its time with infrastructural development. They've carried out a lot of construction of schools, classrooms. About 5 or 6 classrooms was constructed by the association in a school, a government secondary school known as Bankshade. They collaborated with an NGO known as Shuma, and constructed a workshop, for a technical workshop for the government technical school in Bamendankwe. And also they completely refurbished, and not really refurbished, rebuilt the Bamendankwe Palace. Before now, the Bamendankwe Palace was just made up of houses with mud blocks all over the place. Those houses were brought down completely, and new houses for the royal wives were constructed. And most recently, a magnificent building that portray the palace as befitting of the palace of Bamendankwe that it's supposed to be, was put up, and fenced, the whole place fenced. Then we have also done other projects like planting of trees. We've planted over 20,000 ornamented trees around Bamendankwe. And then we also have been involved in water projects to ensure that the community have water. And right now we are undergoing a very huge project which we call, it's a 1 billion project. I'm sure many of you must have seen that on TV. It's a project to construct the Bamendankwe Community Multipurpose Center, which is going to be a hub for Bamendankwe people, a place where we're going to carry out educational activities, cultural activities, and all of that. It has a lot of other things involved in that, promotion of healthcare and all of that. So it's an entire center, so to speak, and it's a real huge project, and that is what we are currently carrying on right now in Bamendankwe.
Now, you have been voted as president. What is the vision? What did you tell the people to merit their confidence? What are you bringing to the village?
Yeah, the very first thing is this community multipurpose center that I told you about. For a long time, the young people in Bamendankwe who graduated from school and they do not have any job doing, some of them who do not even have the opportunity to go to school, they were just around the community and engage in activities that are not healthy for themselves and for the community. And so we decided that this project, this community multipurpose center, should be a project where the young people are going to find a place where they can learn some craft, some trade. There are others activity there where our women are going to be trained on how to carry out sustainable agricultural practices and all of that. And so when I sold this vision to them, they were very impressed by the vision and impressed by the fact that I promised I'm going to take this vision through for my 5 years mandate and make sure that it's completed within my 5 years mandate as president of the Bamendankwe Development and Cultural Association. And in addition to that, we have a vision to implement a fully funded scholarship for Bamendankwe students, one in which we are going to take care of high achieving students who do not have the means to go to school. Perhaps they come from homes where their parents are either very poor or their parents they are orphans, and we are planning to provide them with quality education from primary to university and all the costs of it taken care of by the association. So those are some of the visions that we sold to the people, and they were very impressed with it. But apart from those visions, they have seen my experiences with the association from Bauer and the things we did, right up to my leadership as the Secretary General of the organization.
What did you do in Bauer as president?
In Bauer, I made an uncompleted structure that was there by my predecessor, and I completed it, furnished everything. And also while there, I instituted a savings and loan scheme that took the association from a situation where members were not able to even lend up to 50,000 francs from there to a situation where the association had close to 12 million to loan out as loan. So for the time being that I was there, many Bamenankwe people living in Bauer were able to build their own homes, their own houses. They were able to start their own small businesses, and were able to construct their own homes and live, because that was one of the things that I encouraged them to leave rental apartments and take up to building their own homes and living inside. And so I can say that by the time I left that office, 70% of Bamenankwe people living in Bauer own their own homes.
Okay, they were living in their respective homes. What about the unity, the solidarity of the people across Cameroon and those in the diaspora?
Yes, Bamenka is a very big organization. It has over 12 branches across Cameroon.
Okay.
And it has chapters in the United States, in the UK, in China, in other countries in Europe, in Germany, Belgium, and all of that. And so we have about, I think we have about 9 or 10 diaspora chapters. What we do in those chapters and all of that is that we encourage them to be one another's keeper. And so they have their regular meetings that they have and look after each other, but also they also think about home. They contribute some money and carry out initiatives back at home, initiatives that are done by the individual culture, the individual chapters in back at home. But the general project that we have, like the community multipurpose center that we are talking about, everybody is donating towards that project, and there is this unity around the project. Like everybody like the vision, they like the project, and everybody is solidly supporting the vision and supporting the project. And so in each of these chapters, they are working very hard to ensure that they contribute towards the realization of this very important project.
What has happened across the years for the village of Bamenankwe? Because I know I've lived in Tamulung, I've lived in around a rendezvous. There was a perception of people coming down from Bamenankwe to come down, we call it Mendankwe, to come and sell stuff down here.
Yeah.
There was a perception. But when you look at Bamenankwe, I'm talking of upstation today, the story is different.
Yes. First of all, that perception of looking down on them, it was a wrong perception, because a typical Bamenankwe man is a very hard working person. And it is because of how they grew up. They grew up knowing that they had to go up to climb hills and fetch firewood, come down, and then take it downtown. So they are climbing hills to fetch firewood, and then they come down to where they live, and then still go down to town to sell the firewood.
So they go further where
they live in Menakwe. It's not like there is firewood in Bamenankwe. No, they have to climb hills to fetch firewood, and then they come down and then take it downtown to sell. And firewood was not the only thing. Irish potatoes, they were one of the highest. They are one of the highest suppliers of Irish potatoes
downtown.
And, and beans, and even coal, what we call charcoal. They are one of the highest suppliers of charcoal downtown, and that only speaks of the hard work of the Bamenankwe man. And growing up, we knew that we have to go uphill, fetch firewood, go down, sell, and then come. We help our parents in our education, buying our books, and even taking care of paying part of our school fees from that. And so that has made us to know that we need to work very hard to own what we have. And so a typical Bamenankwe man is a very, very hard working person.
Okay, but things have changed. The place, the whole village looks like a city today.
Yes, the bad thing is that the trees that were planted, and that's why Bamedka took upon itself to plant in more trees.
Replant, yeah.
Yes, to replant more trees. So the trees have all been cut down, and the place is deserted. And you see, we do not have those trees again. And though people do celebrate that our village is growing and that it is becoming a city and a beautiful place at that, which is good, of course, because that is part of development. But it's also it's also a disadvantage for us. It's also a problem to us. We see it as a problem because it is gradually making us lose our village. We are gradually losing.
No, the village is developed.
Well,
it is developed. The village has become very developed.
I don't think you come from you come from way, right?
No.
I just want to.
No, Isu.
You come from Isu. I don't think you would like to see Isu and go off completely, and Isu now become like a quarter in Yaoundé. In Yaoundé, you have a quarter called Korbisong. That's a village. That's somebody's village, and that village has been taken over completely because people have taken it and built, and so their cultural heritage has been lost. So we really, while we like the development and we like people to come, but we do not want to lose our cultural heritage.
Yeah, but we have the dwellers. The dwellers, they have been invaded, but you look at the way they still do the culture and tradition. It looks like these guys lived the days of Douala Mangaber.
Exactly.
They still hold very tight to their culture.
Agreed. That's why I said we are not against the development. We are perfectly fine with people coming, and we are happy that people are coming to live with us. But we are scared. We are scared that we may lose our cultural heritage. We may lose our village per se.
How?
By the time the whole place is taken and then the village center, the palace is in the middle of a town, it doesn't become a village anymore.
Yeah, but that is development.
I agree.
Your village is the regional capital.
Agreed.
Of the Northwest.
Of the Northwest.
Do you want it to look like one village that is 250 kilometers?
We like to see our village have good roads. We like to see our village have electricity, pipe-borne water, have all the facilities that you find in a city. We like to even see skyscrapers in our village, but do not. We want our culture, our tradition, our heritage to be maintained and respected and not tampered with.
That responsibility lies with you guys. You need to work extra hard to preserve.
And we are working very hard to protect that.
Okay, one last word to the people of Bamendankwe watching us this evening.
Yes, if you don't mind, I'll speak in the dialect.
Yes, come on.
Yeah. So I talked to Babumenda Kwifowi. Babumenda Babujine Douala, ne Babujine Yaoundé, ne Babujine Boya. I talked to vote at Bubucham Gominji station, Sena Chichong with a bong in your la nera. It a vote and go with in your chava bin a get a mutango, and go bin a tot in your jaget and shina. Thank you so much, and thank you, Leonard, for giving me the opportunity to say hi to my people.
I felt like saying amen. Like you were speaking in tongues. Okay, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be part of tonight's edition of the program.
Thank you, Leonard, and thanks for having me in the program. It's always my pleasure to be here.
Thank you all for watching, and a special thank you to the production team. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.